turns, he is already leaning against the trunk of a tree in the world of Mattias. Looking up, he sees an unknown planet shining in the sky. Takeru stands up, determined to find signs of other people. After walking for a while, he discovers a small village. Concern quickly arises. He has no money. Then he remembers the identification ability and decides to test it. He concentrates, but nothing happens. Thinking he may have pronounced it wrong, he tries writing the word on the ground. As soon as he says search, the identification magic activates and shows various materials scattered around. He approaches one of the plants and the analysis reveals that it is a B rank specimen. Excited at having found something valuable right away, he starts collecting all the resources shining in his vision. However, the excitement diminishes when he realizes most of them are classified as level E. Still, among them he finds a stone with a beautiful appearance, but the ability reveals that it is nothing more than monster feces. The shock increases when he discovers that this poop, in fact, has a C rank. Even though surprised, he stores everything in his magic bag and heads to the village, curious to find out the value he will get by selling the materials. At the entrance, he encounters a drowsy guard. The man is startled by Takeru's height and asks if he is a warrior or a swordsman. Takeru replies that he is only there to sell some materials. The guard then introduces himself as Marlowe, a member of the Tormi village patrol. Marlowe opens the way through the gate and explains that there is no store specialized only in materials, but there is a general goods store where he can sell his collection. Upon entering, Takeru feels the weight of the villagers' curious looks. Already inside the establishment, the shopkeeper greets him and asks what he needs. Takeru decides to ask if it is possible to sell monster feces. The shopkeeper immediately becomes excited, recognizing the material as hammer anteater poop. He says he can pay 5 silver coins for the item. Not quite understanding its value, Takeru asks how much a night in an inn costs. The shopkeeper explains that the daily rate costs 500 raves and that 1 silver coin equals 1,000 raves. Surprised, Takeru accepts the price with satisfaction. The merchant, thrilled, even rubs the material on his face and asks if he brought more things. Takeru then hands over the herbs he collected. The shopkeeper is impressed with the quality and asks why someone with such skill is selling materials in such a remote village. Takeru replies that he usually travels and takes the opportunity to collect what he finds along the way. Then, the shopkeeper makes him a proposal. He asks him to go to the eastern mountain in search of mithril ore. Takeru asks if there is a local map, and the shopkeeper confirms there is. Before closing the deal, the merchant offers 360,000 raves for all the materials Takeru brought, which leaves him completely surprised. Still, the shopkeeper warns him. The mountain region is dangerous and infested with monsters. Later, Takeru heads to an inn and rents a room. A maid enters carrying a bowl with hot water, explaining that he can use it to clean himself. Intrigued, Takeru asks where he could take a bathtub bath. The young woman explains that only nobles have this privilege. She further adds that she has heard that mages are capable of cleaning people using magic, but in the village there are none available. Excited to try it on his own, Takeru takes the basin, gives the girl a generous tip, and after being left alone, begins to chant magical words. When he pronounces clean, jets of water form and surround his body, performing a true magical purification. The relief of being clean is immediate, but he still feels frustrated at not having experienced a real bathtub bath. The next day, he sets out toward the eastern mountain, taking the opportunity along the way to collect more herbs. During his walk, he finds the symbol of the sword suit marked in a spot. Upon investigating, he discovers scattered bones and soon realizes they are the remains of a fallen warrior. With respect, he picks up an amulet that held a letter. After reading its contents, he builds a grave and offers a silent prayer. As night falls, he raises a protective barrier and prepares a vegetable stew with meat for his meal. As soon as the stew finishes cooking, Takeru tastes it and is surprised by the flavor, finding it delicious. After eating, he decides to head toward the Forest of White Trees, a place also known as the Forest of Ancestral Dragon. Knowing that he might encounter dangerous creatures there, Takeru casts a light spell to protect himself. The beam illuminates the surroundings and reveals the presence of several herbs scattered around, but no ores. he feels a certain disappointment, though relieved not to have encountered monsters. He begins collecting some of the plants and thinks that perhaps the smell of his body is driving away any beast. This idea makes him happy, to the point of running through the forest with a smile. Further ahead, he sees the exit, but ends up falling directly into a valley. The fright is immediate, and in the midst of despair he utters several words related to flight, in an attempt to activate some spell. When he finally says glide, an aura of light surrounds his body and makes him land softly on the ground. Soon he notices several symbols with the gold suit indicating the presence of ores. He takes a small pickaxe from his bag and begins mining. He finds silver, but no mithril. He tries the search magic again and discovers another ore vein, hidden deeper in the rocks. Suddenly, he feels the ground shaking. He decides to act quickly. He casts a fireball against the stone, breaking part of the formation, and collects some fragments of mithril. The amount, however, is disappointing. Ignoring the tremor, he continues exploring. It doesn't take long before he comes across an underground lake of crystal clear waters. Upon analyzing it, he realizes that this water is classified as SS rank, something extremely rare. Excited, he concludes that the liquid is infused with the mana of an ancestral dragon. Before he can act, a deep voice echoes through the cave, demanding to know who dared to invade that territory. Distracted, Takeru ignores it for a moment and thinks about how he could collect the water. As he approaches to drink, the surface of the lake stirs and a huge dragon emerges furiously, ordering him to stop despising it. Takeru watches in silence, feeling the weight of the creature's gaze. Then, calmly, he bows and apologizes for having entered its home without permission. The dragon, noticing his composure, comments that Takeru has an impressive cold blood and questions who he really is. Takeru replies by stating his name and affirming that he is human. The dragon shows surprise. It had never seen anyone of that race with such a large amount of mana in their body. It explains that it was precisely Takeru's energy that awakened it from a deep sleep. Without understanding, Takeru just listens until the dragon reveals that his mana is comparable to that of an ancestral creature. At that moment, Takeru understands who was before him. The dragon introduces itself as Voldius. The young man asks if he can call him Vol-san, and the creature accepts. Voldius then asks a favor. He believes that Takeru's pure power can help bring his son back to life. He tells him that the stagnant and corrupted mana of the cave prevents his heir's egg from hatching. To prove that he doesn't want anything for free, he makes magical mithril ores emerge from the water. Impressed, Takeru asks about the egg, and Voldius makes a gigantic black egg rise from the water. The dragon gives the egg to Takeru, who places his ear against it and hears a faint heartbeat coming from inside. He wonders how he could awaken it, and Voldius explains that it is enough to pour his mana over the egg, the same way he conjured the light magic. Takeru channels energy and warms the shell, but quickly realizes that his mana is being endlessly drained. Voldius laughs, as if he had planned it all along. Takeru realizes he has fallen into a trap. Exhausted, his vision darkens, and he feels as if he is sinking into the water, about to die once again. At that moment, an unfamiliar voice scolds him for his recklessness. A mysterious man appears before him and comments that normally, when someone encounters a dragon, they faint or flee desperately to survive. But Takeru was different, and that was already altering the laws of the world. The young man does not understand what he means. The man continues, explaining that he has been manipulating the world of Madius for hundreds of thousands of years. And since Takeru's arrival, waves have spread everywhere, something that bothers him. For this reason, he decides to reduce a little the exaggerated blessings that the solar system manager had granted. Before disappearing, he reminds Takeru that he himself had asked for an adorable partner. As the young man's vision darkens again, the man adds that a small setback can be useful for him. When Takeru awakens, he hears the sound of chirping. For a moment he thinks it is Voldius, but upon using his light magic, he finds a small dragon that jumps onto his face. Voldius asks Takeru to give the hatchling a name. Confused, he questions whether it shouldn't be Voldius himself to name his son, since he is the father. The dragon explains that the hatchling already has a true name, but wishes for Takeru to give him a pseudonym. After much reflection, Takaru decides to call him B, inspired by the word black. Happy with the choice, the little dragon begins licking Takaru's face. Voldius, satisfied, calls the hatchling Black Voldius and praises the chosen name. Then, the larger dragon states that his son must explore the world alongside Takaru. The young man asks if Voldius really trusts his offspring to someone he has just met. The dragon replies that Takaru is even more powerful than himself, and that is why he feels confident in letting him take care of B. Before diving back into the depths of the lake, Voldius places something inside Takaru's magic bag. To be sure, Takaru asks B if he would like to accompany him on a material gathering adventure. The little dragon agrees enthusiastically. Before leaving, Takaru casts a cleaning spell on B to remove the bad smell, preparing him for the journey they were about to begin. After some time, Takaru left the cave with B. The sky was already darkening, and he concluded that traveling at night wouldn't be a good idea. With his stomach growling, he decided to set up camp right there. While preparing to eat, he noticed that Voldius had connected his magic bag to the mystical lake, allowing B to drink and feed whenever he wanted. B drank the water excitedly and asked for more. Takaru filled another cup, but the little dragon unexpectedly offered the drink to him. Takaru accepted the gesture and tasted some of the magical water. Then, he placed a few magic stones around and cast a protective barrier. He remembered something he had read in the encyclopedia he bought at Jerome's shop. Magic stones were considered rare and valuable resources. Even so, since he could create them with his own magic, Takaru allowed himself to use them freely, even as fuel for cooking. He prepared a piece of meat and some stew. Although it was the same meal as before, he felt excited, thinking it tasted amazing and imagining he could eat that dish many more times. When he saw B drooling because of the smell of meat, Takaru worried that the little one might get sick from unfamiliar food. Still, he decided to offer a little to test. B jumped in so eagerly that he ended up burning his mouth, and Takaru quickly blew on the plate to cool it down. Soon, the tiny dragon began enjoying the stew happily. When he saw B lying down after eating, Takaru felt a great sense of relief. It was good to know that his companion could share the same food and didn't have to live only on magical water. Then he asked if B ever felt lonely being away from his parents. In response, B simply hugged him, showing that he was happy by his side. Smiling, Takaru opened the status window to check B's information. Even though he was young, the dragon was already rank B and possessed several elemental abilities: fire, water, wind, thunder, light, and darkness, in addition to carrying the blessing of the ancestral dragon. Impressed, Takaru thought that despite such great power, B was still just a child who needed care. He warned the little one that even if he was stronger, he shouldn't take any unnecessary risks. But before he could finish the sentence, B had already fallen asleep. Watching the baby dragon sleep, Takaru wondered if the manager of the solar system had really given him that dragon as a partner on purpose. The next morning, Takaru climbed a mountain to return to the forest and was surprised to see that the place didn't look nearly as dark as it had during the night. He thought it wasn't worth worrying so much about such details since he was in another world. Using his search ability, he found several herbs he didn't recognize. But suddenly, B came flying back, looking frightened. Takaru immediately activated his monster detection skill and sensed several nearby. He remembered that before, monsters avoided him because of his scent and wondered if that smell had faded. Thinking it was a good opportunity to get rare materials, he prepared for battle. A rank C rock hawk appeared behind him, and Takaru found it rather cute compared to Voldius. When he realized that the creature's meat was valuable and delicious, he decided to get that rare flying ingredient. The hawk lunged at him, but Takaru raised a shield and launched ice needles, defeating the monster in a single blow. B then pointed to the other side, warning him about approaching wolves. By now, Takaru no longer saw monsters, he saw ingredients. Using magic, he increased his speed and lightened his body, becoming incredibly fast. He rushed toward the beasts, punching and dodging with ease, feeling grateful for his long legs. After defeating them all, he gathered the meat and materials that dropped, but noticed more creatures were coming. Not wanting to spend the entire day fighting, he began thinking of a way to escape. At that moment, B grabbed him and tried to fly. Takaru doubted the little one could do it, but to his surprise, B managed to lift him off the ground with effort. To help, Takaru further reduced his weight with magic, and the two soared through the skies. Takaru warned that B had climbed too high, and the little dragon accidentally let go of him. Takaru fell but woke up shortly after with B licking his face. He realized the little one had carried him out of the forest and was amazed by his speed. He thanked him for the help, asking not to overdo it. B didn't quite understand, so Takaru said he would count on him again if something happened. Excited, B jumped to hug him but hit him too hard. After that, the two continued their journey toward the village. According to Takaru's search ability, Tormi village was a day's walk away. Along the way, B asked about the branch Takaru was holding. He explained that he found it in his magic bag, and that, according to its status, it was a branch of Yggdrasil, classified as rank SS, part of the legendary tree that was now dormant. Suddenly, B blew mana over the branch, awakening its power and transforming it into a staff. Takaru panicked, not wanting to look like a mage and draw unnecessary attention. Before he could think of what to do, he heard a growl coming from the forest. He told B to stay alert, but the little dragon flew straight toward the sound. Takaru ran after him, worried, and when he caught up, he found a young elf lying on the ground. He imagined she had been attacked by a monster, but she explained that wasn't the case. Suddenly, he heard her stomach growl and realized that the roar he'd heard earlier wasn't from a monster, but from the elf's stomach she hadn't eaten in 3 days. Asking for some water, the elf received a canteen from Takaru, drank with relief, and thanked him. Though she was still hungry, he then offered her a sandwich, which she accepted happily. She was so hungry that the simple taste of bread and filling felt heavenly. Takaru commented that any food becomes delicious when someone is starving. Then he asked why she hadn't brought anything to eat, since the village wasn't that far away. The girl replied that she was in a hurry. Takaru said that even so, no one should go out unprepared. Even those who aren't adventurers don't make the mistake of leaving without food and water. Embarrassed, the elf came closer, and Takaru noticed a strong smell coming from her. Disappointed, he remarked that he expected elves to have the fresh scent of spring, but she smelled like fertilizer. The girl explained that she had been camping for several days and couldn't help it. Soon after, she hurriedly stood up, said she needed to go, and ran off into the forest. After the elf left, Takaru continued collecting materials along the path leading to the village. Once they exited the forest, B noticed something. Looking in the same direction, Takaru saw a carriage approaching on the road. He was impressed to see that the vehicle was pulled by a unicorn horse of rank E. The coachman, an elderly man, asked what Takaru was doing in that area. Takaru calmly replied that he was heading to the village of Tormi. The old man looked at him with curiosity and asked if he was a mage. Smiling awkwardly, Takaru explained that he was just a collector. The man was amazed, saying it had been a long time since he had met someone with that profession. He mentioned that he was also heading to Tormi. Kindly, the old man offered him a ride, but Takaru initially refused, saying he was too big and didn't want to cause trouble. The children in the carriage laughed at the comment, finding his size amusing. Even so, the old man insisted, and Takaru eventually accepted the invitation. During the trip, he kept wondering why all the children in this world seemed to like him so much. But he didn't mind after all. That made the adults more comfortable around him too. The old man, amused, commented that Takaru's size hadn't been a problem for the carriage, but Takaru still apologized for taking up so much space. The coachman explained that in Tormi there was an important rule. Everyone must help each other. Takaru, a bit skeptical, asked what they would do if he turned out to be a disguised bandit. One of the boys laughed and said he was lying because if he were dangerous, the carriage's magic item would have already activated. The woman explained that the artifact glows when someone with ill intentions is nearby. Takaru found the idea interesting and thought that maybe he could make something similar. He then introduced himself, and the woman said her name was Eliza. Her children were Yunan and Kain, and the old coachman introduced himself as Poran. Suddenly, B began making small sounds, and the children noticed immediately. Curious, they asked Takaru what that noise was. He said it came from his small companion, but hesitated a little, unsure how they would react upon seeing him. Eliza, however, reassured Takeru, saying it was common for adventurers to travel with tamed monsters. With that, he decided to introduce B. As soon as the little dragon appeared, the children were enchanted. Poron and Eliza, however, were astonished, since it was extremely rare to see a dragon up close. To avoid drawing attention, Takeru quickly covered it up by saying that B was just an ordinary black dragon, not mentioning that he was actually an ancestral dragon hatchling. Curious, Poron asked if he was a dragon knight. Takeru explained that he wasn't, he had simply found an egg and managed to hatch it by chance.